Recently, I was blessed with the opportunity to go to Gamescom in Germany, and it was one of the wildest experiences of my little hermit life. For those that don't know, I live under a little rock in the northeast of the UK, I don't make a whole ton of money from this YouTube thing, and there is zero chance I would have been able to do something like this if it weren't for GameMaker, who brought me and a whole bunch of other developers along to show off games made with the engine. I'd never been to a Gamescom before, like I said, it's out of my price range to even really justify a visit, let alone actually exhibit with my game, so I had no idea what to expect. And the first thing I want to say is that holy heck, it was big. Like, I knew it was big, but it had not occurred to me just how big. The Cullen Messer Trade Fair Centre is the size of a village bordering on a small town. The GameMaker stand was in Hall 10.2, right next to the indie games area. That had something like 100 plus games being shown, and it only seemed to take up like a quarter of the hall. The rest had things like a whole retro games area, a social space, food court, tech companies, education and university stuff, and this was just one hall. Below us was another hall the same size, and this isn't even touching on the AAA halls, the merch halls, the outdoor stuff, the business area. The whole thing was just, it was overwhelming, honestly. There's no way you could see it all in a day. Anyway, I was there to show off PokeyPoke, which I did. For me, this was primarily a playtest opportunity more than a marketing exercise, and I got huge value out of that. I got to see loads of people play the game across all kinds of demographics, ages, and experience levels. Overall, I'm extremely happy with how the game performed. It's come a very long way and been a very long time since I last showed the game at any public event, so I was nervous to see if our work had been paying off. And well, it had. People were playing the game for noticeably longer, far less people were bouncing off it out of confusion or giving up on the controls. It was really great to see. Of course, there were problems revealed too, quite a lot of them. By the third or fourth day, I developed a mental bingo card of common stumbling blocks and issues. People are still initially hesitant to fall down this hole right at the start of the game, but it only causes a second or two of friction at most. The shape of the level has been designed to look very deliberate. We have some lighting, we demonstrate the function of the crumbling rocks nice and early, etc. This gem used to be a bit lower down, and people would spend ages trying to reach it by simply jumping. I thought it was clearly out of reach, but it was clearly not. I think now is, but there's no way to be really sure until I get it out in front of more new people. In spite of Ghost, in spite of the gem text, in spite of this little on-screen tutorial in the middle of the screen, some people still resort to spamming left click in order to learn climbing. I find it's rarer than it used to be, and at least half of the time it doesn't last very long. It helps that we have a second Ghost immediately following this section that does an obvious hold movement, although some people still just do this, and you're quickly forced to learn to hold the button just to make progress, and with a ghost still on the screen doing the thing for you, most people get the idea in the end. But it's not perfect. 4 years on, and still just getting people to grips with how climbing works is the hardest and most important design challenge for the game. I've considered making the wall grab a toggle by default, so you automatically stick to the wall until you either press jump or some other button to drop. This actually felt pretty good when I quickly prototyped it, but it raises some niche questions about certain behaviors, and also it's just a slight loss in feel, where you lose that physical connection with literally holding onto the wall. So I'm not sure about making it the default, but it's definitely at least in the running for being an optional mode. There's of course also ways I think we can improve on the on-screen tutorial, the ghosts and so on, but more on that another time. The game is still really hard. That's the thing that stood out the most. It is supposed to be hard. It is supposed to be an uncompromising challenge that feels rewarding. That always feels like it's your own choice to take on the challenge, and I think it's delivering really well on what I want. But it does still surprise me. I spend so long alone with the game, so long admiring what the speedrunners and testers can do with the game, that I almost worry I've made things too easy, and I could not be more obviously wrong. There is some tuning to be done to wind back, or rather, better spread out difficulty in some places. It's actually more about pacing and getting the feel I'm after rather than making the game easier. More controlled environments and friendly sandboxes to allow for learning and practice. Some less grueling trials that help you develop the skills to tackle the trickier stuff. Some better signposting of difficulty, etc. But generally speaking, I really do think that my philosophy is working out by making everything so very opt-in, and the fact you can always come back to anything later means any grind a player makes against a really difficult challenge is always their own choice, and that really seems to put a dampener on frustration. I started basically writing an essay at this point in the script about my philosophy on difficulty in PokeyPoke, but I realised that should be a whole other video. Suffice to say,
I may have gone too far in a few places,
but it's coming together very well. I did end up making some changes and bug fixes over the course of Gamescom in the few moments I found time. There were some very annoying soft locks we discovered, and also just things I hadn't really considered for the nature of the convention. I had an auto restart if nobody had pressed anything in the game for about 20 seconds. This meant I didn't have to keep constantly constantly restarting the game every time someone walked away, since the tutorialization is so important after all. I added a QR code to the corner of the screen so people could scan and wishlist the game. I saw at least a handful of people actually do that, which was nice. I didn't bring any promotional materials. I had some old cards with a link to the Steam page on them, but that was really it. I was really unprepared. But after this event, I think there's loads I'd love to do if I went back. You really do want to have like a convention build that has things your final game won't even have, but that really help for this kind of environment. Also, when my cards ran out, and they ran out fast because people just like to just take stuff. I even found one of my cards on the floor of a nearby subway in Cologne at one point, which was funny but also kind of sad. The worst thing was just that then there wasn't really anything showing the game's name anywhere. It was just some game people would play and then walk away, not necessarily even knowing what it was called. I was part of the GameMaker stand, so it's not like I had my own big banner art or anything like that, although my character did get to be a part of the stand art and t-shirts, which was super neat. Luckily, Inked had the foresight to add this little in-game banner just before the event, and the QR code really helped. But yeah, I don't have a marketing head at all. I don't even think about this stuff. Admittedly, like I said, my main goal was playtesting, which I got in spades. But there's a lot I will definitely do differently if I get to go again next year. I'd love to do like merch you could earn by playing the game, some sort of little 3D printed gem or something to give away if people succeeded at something really hard. And there's plenty of hard somethings that would qualify. Yeah, I've got all kinds of ideas. In terms of PokeyPoke, after revising lots of things in the game and making lots of plans based on all the wonderful data acquired at Gamescom, I'm working towards finally releasing the new Steam demo, which carries with it literal years worth of improvements to all aspects of the game. Playtesters I have on a private Discord, sourced somewhat from the speedrunning community, are busily breaking my builds apart so I can fix up all of the bugs, and then I hope the demo will be with you all in the next few weeks. Anyway, back to gushing about Gamescom. I got to meet Inksplat, my incredibly talented and patient artist who's been working with me on the game for 4 years. We finally met in person and that was amazing. It was also so much fun just playing all the other GameMaker games. I got to meet some awesome developers and play so many great games. The GameMaker team were also really awesome and accommodating. It's always good catching up with the team in person at these kinds of things and learning more about things to come in GameMaker, getting answers to burning questions, giving feedback, and so on. The tool and team are in such a wonderful place right now and have so much drive and energy to bring great things to us in the future. I feel really good about the future of GameMaker right now. It's in very good hands. It's always weird when I go to do stuff like this because while I'm a hermit who lives under a rock and doesn't know anyone, everybody always knows me already from YouTube. It was wild how many of the other GM devs and just people and developers from across Gamescom approached me, introduced themselves and thanked me for my work, told me stories of how they got their jobs in industry after they made GameMaker games with my tutorials, and just showered me with love. I wanted to cry by the end of every day, it was just too much, but it was so heartwarming to be told and shown the real impact of my stuff has had on people. Real games and careers that got their start from silly little me. So if you're one of the far too many people who said something lovely to me at Gamescom about me, my game, my videos, or whatever, I really want you to know it meant so much to me. I'm a constant sufferer of self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and frankly just loneliness. I don't get out of the house that much, and the work I do at home making videos is actually really lonely a lot of the time. So to just feel so welcomed and widely loved by so many people was just indescribably wonderful. Thank you, of course, to all my wonderful supporters on Patreon, and thank you for watching till the end. I'll catch you all next time.